Hello, my name is Randy Ogle from Thomas Stone High School, and today I'm going to be walking you through my literacy lesson for Into the Wild. It's a gallery walk. So the assignment, the gallery walk, the purpose of it is several purposes that you can use across a bunch of different platforms and a bunch of different subjects. I like it mostly because it gets my students up and moving. They get out of their desks, they get to work in groups, they get to talk. We usually do it in the hallway so they even get out of the classroom. And so we're really getting them up and moving. It hits the kinesthetic learners and lets them, get moving around a little bit and things like that. And it also challenges the kids. They get to read, they get to write. So we try and hit a little bit of everything in the lesson. So here's what we do. So this is for the novel Into the Wild. This is what used as an introduction. And first, we have some background information. We won't spend our time on that. I'm going to focus on the vocabulary. So the vocabulary, my strategy here is that I want a couple things. I want multiple exposures to the words. I want them to understand the words in context. I want them to be able to apply, and I want to try and use student-friendly language because I want to put my brain into their brain and then have their brain spit out the word in the way that they understand it. I'm at every other station. There are 2 vocabulary words for a couple of these, and these are tier 2 words. These are pre-separated by me before we start the unit. And so again, what I want them to be able to do is define the words, use them in a sentence, and apply them later on. I'll show you how I do that. So station 2, you see they would have these 2 definitions here on the worksheet that they carry around with them while they're filling in the gallery walk. They would have spots where these words are pre-written in, but the definitions are not. So they need to write in the definitions. I'm a big believer in writing things down helps transfer it to your brain. And so I want them to write the definition. That means they have to read it. That means they have to process the words. That means they have to write it. And even if they're doing it in a sort of robotic way, they're still getting some exposure to it. So they would fill in both of these. The second part is where they fill in the blank. So I'm giving them sentences because I want them to understand how these words are used in context. And so I create the sentences, and then they've just got to copy the sentence and put the word in correctly for which one fills in, which one fills into which blank. So he was full of blank against the owner of the shop because of how he was treated the last time he came, and the blank crowd continued their party despite the police orders on social distancing. They can feel free to flip back at the definitions because they're still at the same station. And then they're going to, they can talk with their group. They can work with themselves. They can say, well, I don't know, one of these sounds right there, one of them doesn't. However they want to process, however they start to, think about it and in this early exposure works for me. So I want them to get that. As they move on, we learn a little bit more. We get to our next station. So our first couple stations are going to be like this. So these are, again, 2 tier 2 words. Again, I want them definitions. And then they're going to have a couple more sentences where they're going to have to choose the word and fill in the blank and copy the sentence. And again, this is that pencil to the brain sort of transfer that I'm looking for. Moving forward, we get to a couple more words. This is station 6 now. So they have autopsy and mercurial. I'll explain autopsy a little bit later because I'm not sure if it'll fit into the writing. But again, same thing, 2 words, definitions. They're moving around. So now I not only have them learning about the vocabulary that's in the story that we're about to start reading, but I have them learning about all of the themes and the people and things like that. So I'm mixing a lot of the information in, and the vocabulary just sort of gets sprinkled in there. So as we get further, so now we're at tier 3 words. So I gave them 6 tier 2 words, and I'm giving them 2 more tier 3 words. So they're only getting 8 vocabulary words in all, but these are 8 important vocabulary words. So the tier 3 words, I left them alone. So posthumously, I know this is not one that they've heard before. And so I tried to break it down as simply as I could. I sort of over-explained the definition on my slide. I even went through, this is how you pronounce it, posthumously, because I want them to know it. I want them to be familiar with it and understand it because I want to be able to use the word in class and not have half the class, lose me. Then for these, for their sentences, I wrote the full sentence, and then I said, okay, which one fits? And I tried to be pretty blatant without being elementary. So again, challenging them to write down the definition and then read the word, and then they need to copy the sentence. Whichever one of these is the correct one, they are then to copy it onto their paper, and then we're using it in context. So we have 2 of those, so posthumously and nexus. What that leads to then, because that's our last station. So we have 9 stations. This is an 18-minute activity. I give them just about 2 minutes per station. Sometimes it might leak a little bit longer, but I don't want to give them a ton of time, especially when we go out into the hallway, because I don't want to be loud. I want to be out there focused on business. We get the work done, we rotate, and then we get back into the class, because the next part of our lesson is application. So far they've had multiple exposures. They've had context. There's our sentence for that. They've had multiple exposures. They've had context. They've had student-friendly language. And again, during this whole time, whether it's a class that I'm teaching on my own or I have a co-teacher, we're in the hallway, we're circulating, we're answering questions, we're helping the kids out, wherever we can, trying to fill things in. At this point, they have to apply. So I'm giving them a little bit of instructional choice here, because I want there to be some good answers and I want the kids to be involved. So they have to answer one of the following. And in my lesson plan, we have about 16 or 18 minutes left. I think it's closer to 18. We have about 18 minutes left to do this. And all I'm looking for is a paragraph or two, which this 18 minutes gives them some think time, some writing time, some time to consider and things like that, and to do all the things that I'm asking them to do. So I'm giving them 3 questions to choose from, and they've got to use, as you can see, at least 2 of the vocabulary words from the gallery walk and highlight them in your answer. So I said I would bring up autopsy later. Autopsy and posthumously, I don't expect them to talk about that in these questions here. We're not talking about death. But those words were vital to understanding the beginning of the novel and everything that happens after that. So it was something that I thought could be included. The other words, rancor, recalcitrant, infallible, altruistic, mercurial, nexus, they can all be included. They can all fit in somewhere in here. So no matter what the kids decide to answer, there's a way that we can insert the vocabulary words, and now we've had multiple exposures, context, application, student-friendly language, and hopefully they have a good understanding of what I'm asking them and what these vocabulary words are supposed to mean and how we're going to be using them going forward. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day.